and people are hanging out the windows and looking at us walking. I hadn't seen such a thing. And so I hit my teammate, Evelyn, what's going on? And she said to me, Gail, they have never seen a negress before. I said, a negress? What's that? They've never seen you. I said, oh, you mean a Negro? So, diplomatically, I just looked up at them and just waved like it was a parade from the hotel going to the stadium. Because I'm not going to be the ugly American. They had never seen me before. They had seen soldiers who had come through, but they hadn't seen me as a female. Where is she going? She's in our town. So I could have flipped and done something, but I just waved and we just kept going on our way. Because that was a diplomatic thing to do. Always representing my country, representing my people, a race of people, representing women. Okay, there weren't many women's teams out there as well. I sure don't want them to cut women or cut women's budgets because of a knucklehead American comes there and messes it up. But always just kind of putting my best foot forward diplomatically. And if things got ugly, just turn and just go the other way. And I just didn't want to be a part of anything that would bring down the United States or hurt any kind of relationships with my teammates as well. They were very important.
Yeah, very much. And one of the things that we talk about a lot when we talk about larger sports diplomacy is how these individual actions, they might seem mundane when you're interacting with people from another country or culture through sport, but those are the interactions that leave lasting impressions far more than policies or politicians or no offense to any of those here, or what you read about in the press. It's the individual touch points that have such power. Did you want to add on to the diplomacy side around that?
I don't. I never.
Peace TV reporters have been active at the UN headquarters since 2010, the age of former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. They are often invited to gather pictures and news about high-level meetings and events at the UN headquarters. We usually report live on the scene the events of dozens of countries, including the US, France, the UK, Israel, Germany, Russia, Egypt, Kuwait, Bulgaria, Ukraine, and Morocco, and the EU at the UN headquarters and their residences in New York. Our news reports have, in part, kept the international community up to date with the work of different governments so that people everywhere will know the great efforts and contributions of the UN to world peace, international affairs, and multilateralism.
This dream, because I did go to an international school, so there's always that little part of you that wants to be like Secretary of State someday, until you realize what that means. I never thought of myself, or that was not my goal to be sort of have anything to do with sports diplomacy. But what happened was, and I think this happens often, when I started making this documentary, when I started researching it, I started reaching out to women who in sports globally, right? And very quickly I got to meet an incredible amount of amazing unicorn-like women. I think just because no one was talking about it and people were so excited that someone was going to talk about it. But what happened also is that the minute that it got out that I was doing this, I started being called by different publications all over to talk about gender equity in sports. And I was a little mortified because there were women that I was talking to who were Olympians, and they were women who had been doing this, who knew so much about it. And I would try to defer, and I say, I'm not going to because that's ridiculous, but I can introduce you to, but very quickly I realized that probably was, I did have a platform, right? So I started calling, WhatsApping these women, and so very soon I had like a really amazing group of mentors on WhatsApp. And anytime I would be asked, global, right? So anytime I'd be asked to talk or to give an interview here or there, I would send somebody a message going, okay, they want to interview me about this. What do you want me to say? Right? What do you need? What needs to be said right now? If it's a French publication. What's going on with the French? What's going on with the French women right now? The French national team. What do you want them to hear? And so I would get these, and so not just what do you want them to hear, but I wanted to learn also because I don't want to seem like an idiot. how we got there. So what's the history and how did we get there? So in that way, because, it was the cart before the horse, but I started learning so much and everybody was very happy to do it. They'd say, this is what's happening, right now, this is what this means, and this is why it's happening, and I would get all of this, homework, and I would be like reading, and I think, so reluctantly, I became a spokesperson for this, but only because these women, these amazing women were willing to teach me and to educate me, and as I was speaking,
For sure. Kind of pushing the ball forward a little bit, thinking about games this summer and in 2024, from where both of you sit, what are some of the most exciting opportunities for women's sports, women in sports, or women through sports, but also the flip part of that coin, right? What's maybe one of the biggest challenges as well?
I would like to see women, we're seeing them as coaches, and thank goodness Dawn Staley is the woman coaching women. Often in our colleges and universities, the men have stepped up to coach because now salaries are better. Before, when I was coming up, they barely paid a woman coach maybe $2,000 or $3,000 for a whole season. So salaries came up, so more men got into the game. I would love to see women not only doing the interviews, but doing the production, so they can get those stories, ask those questions. How did you get there? What sacrifices did you have to make? Because those are the kind of stories and interviews that propel the next generation. When I was on the Olympic team, it was the first time, if you can imagine, they ever had women's basketball at the games. And we were in the locker room for our last game. It was against Czechoslovakia, then now the Czech Republic. And my coach, Billie Jean Moore, she said to the entire team, if we win this game, we'll get an Olympic medal. But if we don't win this game, we are going to set back women's sports another 25 years. And what she meant by that was that if we won the game, there would be more notoriety around women. They would have to spend money for women. They would have to start the teams. And so we went out there and we played against Czechoslovakia. We were fortunate enough to win, and we got a silver medal when we came home. And when I started on the Olympic team, or women in that area at that time, maybe 1 in 20 were on teams because they didn't have teams. We win the Olympics, the women's game pops up. The following Olympics, 80, we didn't get to go, but by 84, those women, those young girls who saw us from 76, their age, they're 8 years forward. We have gold medal women's basketball, gold medal soccer, football, we had gold medal softball. Those are the team sports that came up. The gymnastics started to light up. The Mary Lou Rettons came forward. And all of that coming off of one win. So it all falls into place. What I'd like to see is those stories, because those stories are the ones that empower you. Yes, I'm glad I heard about Bob Beamon in the '68 Olympics, because he got me going. Yes, I'm glad I heard about what happened in Munich to the Israeli team, and that got me going also, and you just want to be a part of it. So I want to hear the stories, see the athletes, and keep pushing that forward, because that will force the local schools, high schools, anywhere that you spend money for sports, that will force them to put more into the girls' games, and the girls can kind of project it forward. So that's the progression that has to happen.
I agree completely, and to add to that, I think we need more women in decision-making positions in teams and federations, in the IOC, in football, in basketball, and I think that we do see it. I think that, diplomatically speaking, I think it's really cool and interesting. In soccer, like Michel Kang is now main owner of Olympic Lyonnais, right? Which I think is a wonderful exchange of ideas, of methodology, of everything. I think that's a really wonderful sort of diplomatic move, and I know it wasn't just diplomatic. I think one of the things that has to happen is France had such an amazing World Cup for women in 2019. the issue is that, and as you know, having no Olympic story, I can tell you my Olympic story is that every time I watch the Olympics, like the Winter Olympics, I decide no matter how old I am that I'm going to start snowboarding, right? And I think that that's the beauty of the Olympics, right? Is that you guys make us dream that we can do amazing things. And the problem exactly with soccer, at least, or football, is that after 2019, there was such an, I was there, it was amazing. Like, I mean, France was amazing. However, when it was over, there was still nowhere for girls to go locally and play. Right? There's still a huge, you'd have to go miles often. In England's the same thing, it's not just France. And it's that, and I do feel, what I'm excited about is that I think that things are catching up, right? And it's becoming a more sort of from all ends, things are getting better. I think having women making decisions in local leagues and national leagues, I think that's part of what I'd like to see.
And there's so much truth in that, you know, to Billie Jean King's adage, you have to see it to be it. And we have numerous examples of this. You know, on basketball, France, the first big sports stars were Clermont University Club, COOC, the great women's team out of Clermont in the 70s. And we have the statistics that basketball became the #1 sport for girls in France. But there was no mediatization of it, right? After that, the stars at that club went on to elsewhere, it fell out of the limelight. With football as well, you know, France, they did not win, but just got their first podium finish at the Women's League of Nations yesterday. Yesterday? Yeah. Yesterday. So they are vice champions. It is a first podium finish for that women's team. And, you know, the question is, you know, putting those stories in the spotlight, not just mediatizing it, but also telling the larger stories around the players and the athletes and how they got there, you know, how that has a trickle-down effect. Well, so kind of one other question, I'd love to open it up for the audience so you can get your questions ready. Perhaps, you know, getting us thinking about a call to action. What's one tangible step that individuals can take to help douse the flames of inequality? Big question.
Steps, you know, be a voice, speak up, just say that's not right. You know, when I go to basketball camps and speak to the young girls, I tell them, your mother and father pay taxes. The taxes do not say boys only. The taxes go right down the middle, and the money is supposed to go to your teams, your clubs, your schools as well. So just start speaking up. How come we don't have, the same way I asked my college coach, Ms. Cavalas, how come we're not playing at Madison Square Garden? We got 3,000 people at the field house here. My father saw me on TV score the basket. How come we're not at Madison Square Garden? She couldn't say anything. But keep asking the question, keep putting it out there. How come my daughter doesn't have a soccer team, a football team, a basketball team? How come we don't have this? How come all the money goes to football? Just keep talking, be a thorn in their side. And the best part is that your sons and daughters are going to pick it up. They're going to see it. When I was coming up, it was the boys didn't want to play with us, not in the sports. But now the boys are used to playing with and against the girls. You know, I got her. They're used to that. And it was just a cultivation that we had to do. So I want us to speak up, speak out, ask why. And that's going to start generating. Don't let it go under the rug. It's your money, you pay equal taxes, boys and girls, they should have it. And you watch, 8 years from now, you will be cultivating the next, you name it, whatever sport, from gymnastics to basketball to football. You will be cultivating the next set of athletes. And they will talk about women athletes and what you get from being an athlete. When I meet other Olympians, we don't talk about our medals. Not everybody has medals, it's not a big thing. We talk about what's in your heart. We talk about the stamina, about the work, and how that work carries over into the real world. And how I'm able to go work on Wall Street in business and finance, and my degree was in physical education and psychology. Okay, the psychology part helps. But I'm able to go into Wall Street and work because I have the confidence. Because it's a gritty arena. So that's what you want to take from sport. You want to be able to have those young girls be able to sit in front of a hiring manager and be able to answer the questions and be able to look them in the eye, not be scared. Those are all the tangibles of sports, and our girls and many of our boys need to have that. and that's where they can get it. You can't always go to a business school or be taught, but they have to have the confidence. Otherwise, they'll get kicked to the back of the bus, the back of the curb, and they'll miss out, they'll be pissed off, all right? So you make sure they get a front and center, make sure they open their mouths and have a voice, most important.